Hey, welcome to the Laughing Through Life podcast. I'm your host, Tony freaking Fonte. How you doing? How you doing? All right, this is the first format of the change and the update to the podcast, bringing on amazing guests on spiritual healers, light workers, and others who help humanity move forward, ascend in the consciousness, and have more fun in life, because that's what this podcast is all about. So it's about having more fun and having fun along the journey and doing what lights your soul on fire. So that's what it's about. And I have the privilege, the honor to have the amazing Sommer Morgan on the show. She's the first ever guest in this format. I'm excited to hear that. So we get to screw this up together. Let's get it out of the way. You're my guinea pig, damn it. So Sommer, she's a mind magician, and I like that, and I want to go into deeper because she's a mind magician, and you're going to learn more about that today, what she does as a mind magician. Pretty much what she's doing is she's fucking with people's minds and heads and souls. She's like Mortal Kombat. She goes in there and just like takes your heart and says, I'm going to massage your heart. Let go of this fear. She's from the St. Louis, Missouri area, just like I am, and I'm honored to have Sommer on the podcast. Sommer, welcome. How are you?
How
are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Good. So, just so everybody listening, whether they're listening from podcasts, whether they're listening from YouTube, whether they're listening from social media, I want to start off introducing you to the group. So let everybody know, actually dive in deeper on this mind magician, what it actually means, what you actually do, how you got into this line of work, and why it lights your soul on fire. I know that's a lot of questions in one, but I'll remind you if you forget with all those. But remind everybody, but let everybody know what it is that you do, why it lights your soul on fire, and how you're having fun doing it. How about that?
Yes. So I do a whole bunch of things, but all of them are really to heal the trauma in your subconscious that gets stuck, like stuck emotion and trauma, and help you release it, whether that's in this lifetime or a previous lifetime. And I use different modalities with that. I use hypnosis, I read Akashic records, I do Reiki, and I created a hypnosis technique that uses all of these things, and it's been pretty cool. So
it's pretty cool. So you use and I've personally experienced the hypnosis and Akashic records.
And Reiki, but you just didn't know it.
What's that?
And Reiki, you just didn't know it.
Oh, you did? Okay, you did Reiki on me. So okay.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You just get that. Just kidding. But they all work hand in hand. So if you feel that the tool is necessary while you're in the middle of a session, you can make a switch and say, oh, I'm going to add this really quick in there to help facilitate the healing faster, or to release this, because, you know, consciously we're not aware of some of these things that we're resisting and really holding on to. And you're like, let's go ahead and see if the subconscious, the higher self, is ready to let go.
Yeah, it has to be ready, because I've had people that were not ready. I mean, I've even done some work with you where I asked you if you were ready and you told me no. So
yes.
So
I didn't, like, my physical present body here, but my higher self, the God self said, hey, no.
Let's pause on it.
Yeah, we're gonna wait a little bit. He's not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
So, and everybody has that come up, correct?
Most people say yes. I found out right away that if somebody hesitates and they don't say yes right away, that I need to make sure, because when I first started, somebody said, like, they paused a long time and they were like, yes. And then I did it. And that night they were calling me going, something's wrong, something, you know, because we changed something that they were not ready to release. And that person like got really upset with me. So I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I'm like, be sure you are ready.
You are ready.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good learning lesson for you though, right? But what did you end up doing for that person? Did you end up doing anything else, or did they just remain upset with you on that?
No, I didn't. And they weren't consciously upset, but it held a bunch of, I don't know, they weren't upset with me that day, They became upset with me later, and it was over something else, but I think it all stems from that.
They just held on to that trauma.
Yeah.
That was a new trauma added because they weren't ready, but you did the work because they said yes, but they hesitated. And actually, you did that with me, and I guess that's a great thing, because when I was like, are you ready? Because I asked about releasing something, and so you asked the record keepers, and then you go, so how do you feel? And I go, and I go, I want to, but I'm not sure, and I'm hesitating. And they're like, yeah, your record keeper's saying no. And I go, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I really wasn't ready. I was like, but I felt all that tension.
Yeah.
So I was aware enough to say, I'm not quite sure. What are they saying? But it was in lines like, no, you weren't ready for this yet.
And I didn't read records at that time. If I was in records, I would have felt it right away. I was just learning. It was like in the very beginning when I was learning hypnotherapy. She was like one of my guinea pigs. And I'm like, okay, this is new. So like when she called me freaking out, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So
yeah. So we have this, we are part of a collective consciousness, right? So we have connections with everybody. Some of us have the gifts. Well, I believe we all have these gifts, but some of them aren't turned on to them. And it's the ones who are really doing the work, who are actually more, they're really designed and have this calling to do healing work in the world, to help people raise to a new level of humanity, to a new level of consciousness, to a new level of remembering who they are, right?
yeah.
So there's this, we have this connection, and obviously you have the gifts because you've done it with me. The Akashic records, that's really diving into, when I was reading the one book the other day, the Book of Life, right? Which there's different meanings depending on what your beliefs are, whether religion or not religion,
Right.
or just spiritual, but the Book of Life. And that's really what the Akashic records are, right?
It is. Yeah.
So
I always
you,
explain it as your book of life.
yeah. So explain that a little bit on what that means outside of the context of a religion. What does the Akashic records, the Book of Life, truly mean?
It really is. So in my mind, how I see it, so when I go there, I visualize a library. Like when I first heard about it, I got really excited, and I had like visions pop in my head. And I called this woman, and I was talking to her because she was a teacher of how to read Akashic records, and I was going to go work with her. And as I'm talking, I'm like, the library, and she's like, what library? And I'm like explaining to her what it looks like, and she's like, I know what it is. I just don't know how you know about the library. And I'm like, because it's in my head, I can see it. So, and I think it probably looks differently for everybody. But to me, it's like a computer simulated library, and it holds, every possibility that you could have, that you do have, that the best case scenario, the best possibility choices, your past lives. I have this, so when they explain stuff to me, they'll tell me that time works like a slinky, and that this life you're on this
That ring.
ring. So like this is your Tony ring, like your Tony life, and then underneath is the last one, and then the last one. So they explained to me it's like a slinky. However, because we're all one, we all have our slinky, and sometimes they get
entangled.
Yeah. And so there is a possibility that both of us were the same person in a past life. So we'll have memories of those people. We all meet each other several times in our past lives and play a part, whether even if it's, so in this one, you're married, and in this one, you're just passing on the subway and you wave hi. It gets intertwined in different ways. And then sometimes an emotion down here is triggering something that's coming up here. It's really not in this past life. However, because of something that's so great that we want to detach from in the life we're in now, we don't want to feel that pain. We will detach and go to, okay, well, I'm going to go to this life because it doesn't feel like me. So I can process it down here. And I'll feel good. It'll release up here. So it's really not stuck. It's just how
It's the attachment to that way back then that we're still
Yeah.
holding on to because we weren't ready to release it in whatever life until this point of saying, okay, I'm done with this piece.
Yes.
Right. So like, for instance, me with dealing with lack and money, some of that is coming from my childhood, but all these lessons are actually stemming back from other lives that we've actually worked through, which is
Yes.
totally funny because I remember one time when I first began this journey. Well, I've been doing some of this journey for almost 6 years now since I decided to break the cycle of my own toxicity, my own insecurities and anger and resentment and all that other stuff to become the best dad and man that I wanted. And over the last 2 years is where I really dove into this spiritual work and I jumped in, and spiritual awakening is not this peaceful, just all the time. No, you feel like you're dying and going crazy sometimes. So you see it, you're like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. What's going on? I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack. Oh my God. What was it? And it's like, so you're just going crazy because you're letting go of all these things you're holding on to, these beliefs. And mine was from some of my belief was really entangled in, but it's because of these other past beliefs too, into religion.
Yeah.
Right. Mine was tied into that. So I was letting go of these beliefs as I started remembering. And this is kind of what's coming to me on these Akashic records is it's the book of life. It's a library, right? But it's all these spiritually imprinted memories and wisdom and experiences that we have experienced, that we want to experience, that we chose to experience when we came here. That's kind of how I'm
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
seeing it.
it's
But it's
everything.
everything, but it's everything for us.
Yeah.
But also how it's going to benefit the collective at the same time, all of us, because we're all wanted energetically. And this is why we connect vibrationally and why we all have these connections, even though our ego, our separateness, the ego mind says, no, we're separate from everything. And that's what drives us crazy. But it's also used to help us to get past these fears, these things, because that's the whole point of life is to remove these fears, remove all of that separateness and realize how powerful we truly are, which the book of life, the Akashic records, is tied to who we truly are. And that's what we're here to do, is help people awakening to that, knowing that, hey, something's missing from my life. I'm tired of living this mundane life. I'm tired of being stressed all the time. I'm tired of having anxiety all the time. But all that stuff that comes up, we're here to assist them on awakening. Those that are ready, those, like Jesus said, the sheep that hear my voice will be saved, right? He didn't mean it saved like, oh, I'm saving you. He meant it as you'll remember who you are and move yourself from the separateness and go to who you truly are, this powerful spiritual being of connectedness. And that's what he was really meaning in that. And that's kind of where I see the Akashic Records, the Book of Life. And when I read that the other day and I sent that picture to you and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense to me. It's like a remembering. It's like, oh, it's just everything. And I like how you put it, because when you said library, I'm picturing this divine library.
Yeah.
With all my stuff.
Colors.
It's like, oh, this year and this year and this year. But it's about, but yeah, you can go back. Okay, in this life you had this go on. But that's what I was talking about is everything started unraveling, because I was like, at first I was like, yeah, I don't know about this past life stuff, because I didn't really believe it. I said, but I've had so many beliefs come unwound that I'm open to learning about it. And if I experience it, well, then obviously there's truth to that, because I can experience it.
Yeah.
And obviously doing the work we've done, I've experienced it. So firsthand I go, well, I can't deny that anymore. Because, well, I could, but it wouldn't work very well, because I'm like, I experienced it.
Yeah.
We went back to two of my lives of where I was at. Well, there's three, but we didn't go into the third one.
No.
I'm just now dabbling, because I touched base on it. Like yesterday I was sharing with you. I'm like, okay, some stuff came up from that, which is tied right onto here. And it's just amazing how we're so blinded. We're taught to be so blinded about who we truly are. And we have so much getting thrown at us, trying to keep us there, because there's a lot, not everybody, I almost said that, but there's so many people, especially religion, who's trying, which is good. Religion's good for those who aren't ready.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. There was a period when I'm like searching and seeking more, but when it was presented to me, it freaked me the hell out.
I was the same way. I was the same way. So when I first started, I had a dream that changed everything, because like I was very religious like you for a really long time. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I I've been just about every Christian religion there is. And I was at a place where I was like, I don't believe in anything anymore. I wanted to be dead. And I was like, this is just
Oh, wow.
ridiculous. And I actually don't think I've told you this story.
No, this is new to me.
Yeah, I had a dream, which I now know was a visitation, and I knew it, like I remember it, like I had a person come get me. I was in a restaurant and brought me to a special place in the restaurant, and had this conversation with me. Told me we had many lives together, that I had work. She accepted and explained like all this stuff I needed to do. I was not allowed to opt out this time, which I didn't know what meant now, but I had died young in like almost all of my lives except for like some very early on ones.
Okay.
And she was in the last one. I killed myself in the last one. So she's like, you can't do that. You have to be here. I was supposed to be here before now to do what I'm doing. So she's like, you got to do it now. And I now know that it was my higher self. At the time, she gave me a person who, whenever, because I was skeptic, of course, when you start getting all this stuff, and I was like researching my dream. So when I woke up, I immediately went online before the internet was so big, but it was still there. And I Googled her name, and she had passed away. It's somebody's famous mother. So, but I wasn't really in lives with her. It was because she was like giving me, hey, this is new, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
real. You're not just making it up. It was not something that I would have heard before. She had died that night that she came to me. I mean, I can tell you, like, the actor is oh, I can't even remember now.
Oh, I thought you said you could tell me.
Yeah, no,
I'm just
it's
kidding.
Dane Cook. So Dane Cook's mom.
Yeah.
She gave me that's the name she gave me. She didn't say Dane Cook, but she said, it's like, I can't even remember now. It's like Diana Cook, like Deborah Cook, something like that. And so I like Googled it, and I was like, oh, and so for a long time, I thought I was connected to Dane Cook, and I like was obsessed with him for like a year or two. And then I learned some more stuff, and I now know that it was just my higher self giving me a message so that I would not blow off that dream.
But used her,
yes,
as the avatar to kind of come in and share that with you.
Yeah.
Cool.
And since then, I've gotten more and more information about that dream, and I've got to remember a lot of my pre-planning life now. And I remember my daughters choosing to be my daughter, and it's just a lot of stuff that came in. But that dream changed my whole perspective on life, and that's actually the dream that got me to start researching the Akashic records. It started, I started looking at past lives and all of that.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, how did you get into the Akashic records? So it kind of led you to researching. So how'd you even get, because before even talking to you, it's like, Akashic records, what the hell are those? And I remember you made a post on that. I'm like, what the hell's that? But then I was like, now I'm intrigued, because I'm just like open to learning new things that are going to help me grow and get to the next level of consciousness and to keep ascending and getting to more enlightenment, right? So it's getting closer and closer to who I truly am and really stepping through that. So that dream led you there, but how did it lead you to start researching Akashic records? How did that even come up?
It led me to these books. I have them all downstairs. I can tell you later. You can put it in the comments. It led me to these books on past lives, and it's life between lives. So it was on past lives and life between lives. And it's from a hypnotherapist who would hypnotize you to go in between, your lives to see what happened in between them. I've since read a lot of books like that, where they talk about why somebody would choose to have a handicap, or why would somebody choose to be sick in this life, why you would choose to be, excessively poor. And I find that fascinating. Like, I mean, I also work with special needs kids, and some people are like, oh, I feel so bad. It's like, how do you do that? But I see them differently. I've been blessed enough that one of my parents has let me do work with her child. So I've seen why she chose the life she did, which was fascinating to me. she wanted to be loved unconditionally, and she totally is in this life. Like, she had a very hard life, the last one, and this one, like, she's just wanted to be loved unconditionally, and everybody loves her, and she could poop her pants or sling whatever she wants across the room, and everyone loves her. You know, she's a sweet girl. You know, it's just, that stuff fascinated me.
Wow.
So reading that book, he mentions briefly the Akashic records, and as soon as I read it, it's like, it, you know, when you read a book and like just those words just light up on the page, and I was like, I need to know more about that. So then I'm of course researching it, and then I found this woman in she was in South Carolina at the time, and her and I had the conversation. She's the one who was like, yeah, how do you know about the library? And her and I talked for a while. I think we're still friends on Facebook. And I did more research. And then a few years ago, I talked to a woman who actually read Akashic Records. She's like, you're not supposed to read Akashic Records. And you know, when you are just learning something and someone tells you you're not supposed to do it, I was like, oh. So I stepped back from that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm just don't know what to do then. You know, I was like, okay. And I was really, you know, so I'm going to tell you, don't ever listen to anybody, because sometimes I think people get jealous and they don't want you to be their competition or whatever. There's always enough for everybody.
Which is the ego.
Yes.
Which is the past traumas. And
Yes.
that's the separate side, right? So, which is, it's fine. There's no judgment, right? This is what we learn as we start ascending, is we're letting go of all these judgments, because we realize these judgments, we deal with them too, and we have our own, but the judgment is really of ourselves, but it's about going back to love.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about, which people resist that, and it becomes so cliche, but that's really what it's about. And that's what Jesus and Buddha and all these different spiritual teachers were talking about. It's like, love is who we truly are. Love is who God is, universe, higher self, whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't matter what you call it. I know some people will argue that, but that's okay. That's just their ego mind. But it's, yes, people do that. They get scared. It's fear. It's fear-based, based off of trauma.
Buddha and them never said, oh, only I can do this, you can't do this. Every single one of them said, you can do what I can do. So
yes, and to quote Jesus directly, anything I can do, you can't, even greater.
Yes.
It's not because we're separate or he's greater. What he was saying is we're equals.
Yes.
That's exactly what he was saying then. And that's what the other spiritual teachers too have taught. Going, it's like, you have this ability. Our ego keeps us from, I can't talk now, prevents us from really feeling that, or saying, oh, that's crap, it's not true, that's false, it's blasphemy, or whatever you want to come up with, because our ego says, no, that's not true. And here's the facts. Where I've learned, especially in this past year, that my truth doesn't come a lot of times anymore from here. I'm in a higher realm where because I'm learning from all these different astrology and all that other stuff, these higher self, and I'm feeling it's like my truth doesn't come from here. My truth, I'm in the divine realm of learning my truth, coming straight from God itself, right? It's like no, in the divine and all of that, all of the collective up in the divine realm is where my truth comes from. And I know some people listening to this are going to be freaked out by that, but the majority of who's going to come on here is going to go, okay, this is for those who are ready to go to the next step. And for those who are not, it's going to make you uncomfortable what we're talking about. And that's great. I want to make you uncomfortable.
I've been uncomfortable. You've been uncomfortable.
Yes. I've been uncomfortable the last 2 days because of stuff's going on, but it's
no, what I mean is the first time I heard it, it made me uncomfortable. I was like, that's not true. I
resist the shit out of it.
Right. Yeah. Each time I'd read, like, it's like a conspiracy theory. Like the first few times you're like, that's just bullshit. I don't believe any of that. And then like things happen, you're like, oh my God, I think that might be true.
And then you're like, well, fuck, what does that mean about my beliefs then? Oh, shit.
It totally exploded.
And I've been an asshole about my beliefs.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's different. Someone goes, well, remember when you were back here being an asshole about it? Yes, I am, and I'm sorry.
Yes, I apologize. I totally own that shit.
And I can do that now because I've healed enough to go, yeah, I was an asshole back then. All right, this wasn't true. I mean, because you're so holding, and there's so many people. And you know, I talk about religion because that's a big connection, a past connection to me, right? It's like I was lived there and I see it, but there's so many different people, not even just in religion either, that are just holding on, and they mean well. but it comes across as this judgment and this separation piece because of how it's set up.
Yeah.
And we'll have people argue that, and that's okay. I'm not here to judge you, and you can have that, and you can say I'm a blasphemous, the Antichrist, or whatever you want to say, and I'm laughing about it because it's not true, but you can have that because it's not my junk. And I've cleared enough and healed enough to know, no, I've experienced enough. You can't take that away. You can't take your experience away. You can't take my experience away, what I've experienced. Because even going into the work that we did together, I don't know if I shared this with you. There's a skepticism there, right? It's like, I don't know, but I'm not going to deny it either because I've experienced so much, but is it really true? And then I was experiencing, I remember while I was in hypnosis and when you're going through, I remember after the first one, I went, holy shit, this is real. But I was I didn't share it. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, whoa. So now I stopped questioning so much. Oh, is this a coincidence? Which we know there's no coincidence, even though sometimes now I still will have that pop up because it's still the ego mind trying to protect, right? And as we're going forward, as I move forward into this spiritual comedian, which someone asked me not too long, he's like, I've never heard that. And I'm like, well, I'm not the only one that uses this because there's other people doing it, but it's becoming more known using comedy as a gift that we have, which scared the shit out of me. But it's from this past stuff of this rejection and abandonment that comes up. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be rejected. I want to be abandoned. But that's who I am. It comes up so many different times, and I've resisted it like 3 times. And I'm like, all right, the 3rd time I get blasted in the head and say, fine, you okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is where I'm moving to. And having more fun and teaching people how to laugh through life. That's my damn gift.
Yeah.
Doing that. And obviously being an empath, I can feel people's pain. I'm able to walk through my own pain so I can help other people. Like that meme you sent today about, an empath can heal their own pain and fear, let go of that so they can show the world you can be sensitive. I think it's so awesome to be sensitive and powerful as fuck.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, we are powerful.
Yeah.
But we're sensitive to that. And yet, like I said, though, some people this is going to challenge them.
Yeah.
But I think a majority of them are going to be led to this. It's because they're seeking. They might even realize that they're seeking, but nothing shows up by coincidence. We know this, that people are wanting something more. They're seeking more.
And like I very well know that if I'm talking to a lot of people, like I don't talk to my family about this. Like,
no, you don't get it.
I know I sound like I'm off. I'm like, woo, like, I'm like, look, you're a video game avatar. Like I say this all the time. I'm like, okay, the higher self you is playing a video game and you're the avatar for the video game. And so everything is for you. And so I'm happening for you. You're happening for me in my video game. And so I'm just your mirror and blah, 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 blah. And so whenever like I'll go, it's your goddamn video game. And sometimes I need someone to say that back to me.
Hey, Summer.
And that's why Tony's my friend.
Summer?
Yes.
It's your goddamn video game.
Yeah.
But for me, I use show.
Yeah.
Like a movie.
Yeah.
Because being a spiritual comedian, it's a show. It's a whole thing. It's like you get to write the script. If you're not happy with what's going on in your life at this moment, you're not just by chance this shit happening a victim to it. You get to rewrite it. Well, I don't want this in my life. And that just reminded me of one of the ideas I had when I was in bed last night.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I got to write that down. Haha. Thanks for that. I'm going to write that down before I forget it again. So we think that just life just happens and we just got to go about it and we're just here. And it's like, no. We are creating this. Yes. We're creating this. Now, I do want to stop because you talked about pre-planning.
Yes.
Like we have a pre-planning before we actually come into this life. Yes. Do we pre-plan in every life before we decide to come into each life we go into? And you talk about, and what I really want to talk about on that piece is that we talk about illnesses and special needs because you work with special needs kids as well. So it's like, why would someone choose an illness? Why would someone choose to be a paraplegic? Why would someone choose to be, Down syndrome or something along those lines? Like you talked about, like choose an illness, choose a special need, choose something that's
for higher expansion.
But you think that would be, we're limited. They're so limited. Why would someone? Why does this happen? Why does God do this? It's like, well, they didn't choose. We chose. They want experience for something, right? But it seems like, oh, they're so limited, they don't have a quality of life, but that's our own suffering we're pushing onto them, correct?
Yeah, because you don't know.
Projecting.
Um, so like, okay, so for the one instance that I've actually had the privilege of seeing, like people are like, oh, I feel so bad for her. She doesn't feel bad. She doesn't know anything different. She's not sitting around crying. She actually laughs all the time. If you know anybody with Down syndrome, most of them are like the happiest people that you know.
Happy and loving. They just want to be talking and being friends with everybody.
Yes. Now, there are things like, and so I get this. So, if you're going to get hurt, like become a paraplegic, there's a split second where you can change your timeline. Before that happens, there's also a time where you can go back and regenerate those cells. It's just knowing how to be in alignment to regenerate those cells to get that back. And I feel like that's a thing that's coming. That's something that's going to be coming.
What's
Tony
happened for some, right? It's already happened. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he did that. He was a chiropractor.
Hearing loss, go from deaf to hearing,
vision back,
everything.
I'm still working on this piece.
And I'm working on teleportation. I tell Tony all the time, that's my life goal, is to learn. I'm gonna teleport. I know I have a theory on how it works, and I'm gonna do it.
Well, bilocating, teleporting, which right now we're sounding like we're cuckoo in this room.
I'm totally fucking nuts.
And it's fine. You could think that because you're not aware. And like, I still don't understand how it works, but I'm going, everything I've experienced up until this point in the last 2 years has totally blown my beliefs out of the system, totally completely blown me. So I don't say, well, that's completely impossible now. Right. I'm like, I don't know how, now it's for me, it's like, I don't know how that works, but it could be possible that we used to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And we forgot about it because of the separateness and fear and trying to control because of fear.
The Dark Ages came about for a purpose. So.
Yes. Religious, science, all of that fear. It's fear-based. Look at the news, you look at anything that like our current medical system does.
Yeah.
It's fear-based. And really what it's about is shedding, and it's really about breaking the cycles of that. But it starts with the generational cycle, the family generational cycle, and then moving into these other cycles, which all it is when we're breaking cycles, it's our generational cycle, but then you're allowing other people, you're shining the light onto them, a light worker, to break their own cycle. So all these collective generational cycles are connected, right? And it's about releasing and letting that go and saying, oh, it runs into family crap you see in the medical field. I don't buy into that shit anymore because, for one, there's a thing called epigenetics. Dr. Bruce Lipton and a lot of these people talk about epigenetics because we know science has proven that we have these genes that just don't work, right? They're not, I say don't work. They're not operating at that moment.
Right.
They couldn't figure out, well, they're just there. We don't know why they're there. It's because our current level of belief system, our vibration and connection is not allowing them to turn on.
Yeah.
And then what you do,
people can turn them on.
Yes, and this is where this regenerative stuff comes from. You can regenerate nerve cells and regenerate your health, and that's done. You can say people say it's bullcrap. Well, Dr. Joe Dispenza have done it. He broke his back. He got hit on a triathlon or something along those lines, and they're like, "You're going to be surgery or you're going to be paralyzed." And he says, "No, I don't want to do surgery," because he was going to be worse off by having the surgery. And he just visualized, and he tapped into that hidden power that is us, that innate power that is in us. Our body is a freaking phenomenal powerhouse of healing. Yeah. It'll heal itself. The problem is we're so low in vibration because we're buying into these thoughts, which is all our experiences and what we chose to experience.
Yes.
But yet we're living in this. And when we say, oh, there's something more, our body has natural curing abilities. And I know I probably shouldn't be saying that on a freaking podcast because in trouble.
Marissa Peer does. That's why I went into hypnosis, because she has made people see and hear again, because she'll go back and flip that switch. And that's why I got really into hypnosis and I studied a lot of her work.
So be like even religion, right? And some what's the word I'm looking for? Denominations or non-denominations, but some sects, right? Some sects of those, not sex, S-E-X, but S-E-C-T-S. some of those believe that we like, oh, if you just have enough faith, they're doing the surface level, right? They're like, if you have enough faith, but that's a portion of it. You got to understand this deeper piece of who we are and how powerful we are and how powerful our body and mind is to regenerate. But it's about moving yourself to a higher vibrational frequency, which again, it sounds so woo-woo, but there's science behind that too. And people just don't want to understand it because you're going to believe and see what you want to believe. Right. And whatever you want to find, whatever you want to believe, you will find evidence of that anywhere. Whether it's religion, whether it's not religion, whether it's just science, which if you're just believing science only, then that's like having a faith in religion too, because it's
the
a different
thing about science is that there's new science every day. So when people tell me, well, I believe in science and science says this, and I'll be like, yeah, well, science will find something brand new next week. So, there's new science every day. So
absolutely.
I believe everything is possible. So.
Well, and I believe in the spiritual, and I believe in science because I believe science actually shows how spiritual we are, but it only can show to the depth that the greatest minds in science at this time can fathom. Or I also believe this too, because if there's an agenda, right? There's an agenda behind some of this stuff. New ideas are blocked. They won't, nope, this is against what we're trying to get right now. And I know that sounds, but there's proof of that. Yeah. Like if you listen to Dr. Bruce Lipton, right? The biology belief, and he's talking about the epigenetics, right? But in epigenetics it's coming out more and more now, learning this piece of it, where we don't have to buy into this, oh, you just have that just runs in the family. Well, there's a reason things run in the family, right? It's not, like heart disease, diabetes, because the same patterns are being, and beliefs are being pushed off, and we're carrying that on those genes. And that's what breaking the cycle means.
So can I talk about what happened last week when I did a reading?
Hell no, you can't talk about it. This is the Tony show. What the fuck?
You know about it. Yeah.
Yes, you can talk about it.
I did a reading for a woman who told me, well, we just have bad luck. It's just bad luck in our family. So what I did in the records is I had her disconnect. I do this a lot in hypnosis, but I can do it in the records too. And I had her do this visualization with me to disconnect it. And then she talked about an entity that was in her son, that's been in her son since he was little. And it comes in and out and it has like this whole personality. Well, I didn't feel that. I felt really good the whole time I talked to her. And then when she asked me to find it, I had to go really deep in there, and I found it. And when I did, I felt him go in my body. I felt myself do this little evil smirk thing, like whatever. It was well, so then I pushed him out of my body, and I became sick almost immediately, and I was sick all weekend. And I was talking to my friend Cindy, and I realized she was sitting there talking about, because I was trying to figure out, how do you get this entity? Because I don't believe in good or bad. I believe things just are. But if you tell your family line from, hundreds of years ago, we have bad luck, we have this curse, you're going to manifest, this fear is going to manifest itself into this entity, which just means that she's holding this fear, and it's in, it's in her mirror, because life is her mirror. She's the one who experiences it. And now she might have put that belief on her child. Her son's an adult now, but it's just this entity that's manifested itself. So if you're in a family line where they're telling you, well, this person died, you're susceptible to breast cancer because the female in our line, so then your whole life you're hearing this. Even if you hear it as a child one time, you've already got it in your subconscious mind. So then you create it within your body. So it's the same thing. You've created this energy in your body. And I believe that a lot of times that's what I believe. Cancer is anger. So you could be angry about that. It's angry. It could be anger from women in your line being abused down all the way down your line and passed on.
It's some kind of a trauma.
Yes.
That we manifest in our body, but we also can also, as we change that, we can heal that piece of it. And that's where this faith and understanding, but we got to understand and know that and step out of our current belief system to say something's got to change. But it's also, are they ready for it? Do they want to do that? Did they come here to do that? And it's about allowing everybody to have their journey and realize that everybody is different. It leads to one place, but it's different. And we got to step back from allowing ourselves to suffer because we think someone else is suffering.
Yeah.
I've done it in my own family, right? With my brother and my dad. And my brother is always talking, oh, this is going to happen to you. I was going to have a heart attack. Heart disease runs in the family. And I said, it's not. Well, I thought that way too. I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't coming from a place of pride and this arrogance and this place of I'm invincible. We are immortal, right? We know that piece of it because we physically die, but we don't actually die.
Right.
And I know that's going to blow people's minds too, some of them. But some people, most, even on the religion level, they understand that piece to some extent.
Right.
Someone who's not is going to be like, what? But even on the religious standpoint, and even from that point, I'm not knocking religion. I used to be kind of just angry for a while, and that was my stuff to work through because I felt like I was lied to, but that was where I needed it. Because I tried to back in 2015 to, God, tell me more about Jesus. Who's Jesus? I felt this calling for something deeper. I had no idea. I'm saying these questions, where I'm like, what the hell am I asking these questions? Yeah. I had no idea. I'm like, I don't know why I'm asking these questions. That was my soul, my deeper, my highest self saying, I want to experience more now. It's time to go level. But I wasn't quite ready. I was just beginning the journey of that. And I got so freaked out when I started researching and stuff coming in that sharing me, which now I'm like, I totally get that now. And it was really what I was learning in 2015, but I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
But I'm ready for it. And I was ready for it in 2018. So it was like 3 years later when that finally happened. And I started going on this journey with it. And it's the funniest thing. It's like, 2 years. And I'm like, I laugh now. I'm going, man, I was so tight on this religion. But what I was going on this rabbit trail with, because, I do that. I go in circles and I come back. Sometimes I forget it. Don't remember. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. Okay, I wasn't supposed to remember. It's still good stuff.
We'll remember tomorrow.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But even in the religion field, if you just go deeper,
yeah,
you don't need to challenge your beliefs to go deeper. You don't need to challenge unless you decide to, unless you chose, hey, I'm ready to go past this and go on a deeper level. Just go deeper into your
when you really think about it, when you think about channeling, to me, reading your Akashic records is channeling. People channel all the time. It was just like that post or that thing I sent you the other day, where Abraham Hicks was there and somebody said to them, I don't know if I agree with you because I'm a Christian and you're a channel, and I don't know if I believe in channeling. And they're like, where do you think the Bible came from? I mean, you're talking about guys that sat and just wrote. I mean, obviously it was channeled. Now, and also as being somebody who channels and writes, sometimes it comes out of me and I have to say it. I have to, there's so much different meaning behind what is there. Sometimes I don't know how to put it down on paper because I can see it. Like if you get a reading from me, sometimes you get beautiful artwork pictures and you'll get 3 different, okay, these are the 3 paths that are the most popular for you. So, you get that a lot. My artwork.
And people channel differently too. They have that ability to channel, but so the ego is it keeps us separate and says we're separate from God, separate from everything, which we're not. But it tells us that we are. And then what we see here in the physical realm is all this separateness to keep us separate. Whether it's religion, whether it's news, whether it's medical, whether it's whatever it is, and our own design of what we wanted to experience. And the ego was put into place to say, okay, I'm going to make you forget all of this. And now your show begins. And you're going to learn this piece about you, or you may not learn it in this life because you didn't want to.
Right.
Go back. But it's about just challenging yourself and going through. So we think, oh, shoot, I did all this. I fucked up all back here. I was this angry person. I was this, I did this, and I had this going on, and I made all these horrible decisions. And I love how you said earlier about good or bad. You don't think there's good or bad. And for the longest time, I couldn't fathom that. Now I'm going, oh, I get it, because that's duality, and duality is only in this dimension. But as you start awakening and raising your consciousness, you're allowed to start experiencing more and more. And then it's like the ego dying to the ego, the separate self is the crucifixion and death. And then as you start rising, that's the ascension, that's the resurrection, what's really going on, right? And you're moving up higher in this consciousness, becoming closer to your higher, truest self each day. But at the same time, the ego is allowing you to do that, because it's still going to bring up, you got shadow and mirroring yourself, and other people mirror you. which people argue. It's like, why would I come here to have this happen to me, to live this way? It's like, that makes no fucking sense. You're full. You're like crazy.
So think about a movie. Okay, so a movie or a video game. I usually do a video game only because to me, it's a choose your own adventure.
Yep.
It's like a choose your own adventure movie. So when you're in a movie, you're playing a part. I'm just playing a part. This is the part I chose to play. This is the part you chose. You chose to play Tony. There's a bunch of movies with people that choose to play really poor people or really sick people. Or why would you choose to play that? For the experience of getting to do that. If you're looking at it from higher perspective, you're like, this is just a second of your time. To us, it's 100 years. To them, it's like 2 seconds.
Yep.
So, or two, for real. So it's like, all right. So when you go back up and when you're gone and you collect back into the collective, they take, it's like, okay, well, here's all the experiences that we had as this human experiences where, we get to create what we want. Some of us come with the knowing that we're learning how to create, and some people are just here and they don't want to learn that. And that's okay. It's being okay with that.
It's about, and that's something that's been a huge lesson for me, is letting go of the attachment to other people, because I'm like, no, they should all feel this way. And it's like, but they shouldn't.
How can you not see what I'm seeing?
Yes. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was just strangle you or just shake you until you stop it.
Yeah.
And then you're pissing people off, which I've done that too in the beginning of this. I've done it in the beginning of my religious time too. It's like, but it's okay. I'm like, I own it. I was an ass. I was trying to push beliefs and pissing people off, but I wasn't awake at that point.
Yeah.
This is why I don't judge people for certain things. It's like, I may not like what they did, and I may not be around that person, but I'm like, I'm just going to let it go, because they're operating from the best they can at that moment, because their operating system is not as whatever it is. It's like you have an iPhone, right? Or an Android. It's like whatever operating system you have at that moment is to the benefit it's going to do. But if there's a glitch in it, well, you can't do anything until they put a new update out, right? But you also got to download the update.
Yeah. And also know this, if I have an Android and you have an iPhone, they can't speak to each other. They speak a different language. So, and if you think of other people, you're like, oh, sometimes they don't speak the same language,
No, and that's where everybody, and I love that analogy too, because that's where people are in their different paths of life too. It's like someone may be an Android, some may be an iPhone, some may be an outdated iPhone, some may be an outdated Android. It's like some may be still using the freaking brick phone. But I don't think that's even possible.
Some people are landlines.
Yes, they're like, oh, I can't do technology. I can't do it. Some are still doing the flip phones. It's like, you might as well be doing hieroglyphics, dude. But
you got a feather with some ink.
Yeah. We're going to start. Hold on. I'm going to get some freaking ashes, and I'm going to start doing some on a freaking concrete block over here, making pictures. But you're talking about you like movie because you could choose your avatar. It reminds me of Jumanji, right? And how the second movie, they didn't choose their avatar. They thought they just went back. Some of them, you know how that goes. But if you have the movie, then I'm not going to spoil that for you, whoever's watching.
Yeah.
But you get to play this game. If you want to have this movie, you get to change the scenes. Come on, think about it. When they're doing a movie too, right? This is the same thing. If they do a scene and the director and they're like, that didn't feel right. Let's change this. Let's change you saying this. Let's move this differently. I want you to look this way, and you keep changing it until you get it right. And then they do a premiere and they have people come out and look at it and see how the audience reacts. And if they didn't, they're like, no, I didn't like this ending. I didn't like this piece. They're like, okay, we need to make changes. And then they'll go and recut the scene and then edit it in and do the video and do the movie, and bam, it comes out. So it's about improving it. It's the same thing with our lives. We have this ability to go, well, I don't like this scene, to change it. But you got to be able to want it and be aware of it instead of saying, oh, life just happens to me.
Right. And then you're a victim of whatever happens.
Yeah. And then that's what you keep manifesting. Well, I don't manifest this person treat me like shit. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. Because you treat yourself like shit. Why are you treating yourself like shit?
Yes. Stop. Why are you putting yourself second best? Why are you I don't want that to happen. I want this to happen. Yeah, consciously.
Yeah.
But unless you freaking align and realize unconsciously, it's not.
I always go, where are you doing it? I did it actually to Tony last night. I had a moment. I was like, I felt it and I called. I was like, but I know it's just because I'm making myself second best. So that's why everybody else makes me second best.
Yes. And then I had the feeling of going, hey, I said the word not being chosen came up and you're like, yup. And you're like, yeah, because maybe I'm supposed to choose myself. No, ain't no maybe about it.
No, I'm supposed to choose.
You are supposed to choose yourself first. I'm supposed to choose myself. But we're taught you got to sacrifice. That's selfish to choose. Yeah, because that's the fear-based cycles from way back here saying you can't be this person. You can't be this powerful person. It's like, no, choose you first.
Yeah.
And then everything will align for you. The people who care about the most will choose you. They'll show up. Those that don't will just disappear. That's about rewriting your scene. You rewrite your scene. You rewrite your game. You choose a different avatar or you choose a different scene in the game, right? You go to a different level in the game by saying, I don't like this.
Right.
I want something to change.
And not holding on, because that's the hypnosis piece I do is letting go of what happened here. And then if you release it here, I call it changing your timeline, but you remember it. So we jump your timeline. So up here, it just doesn't affect you anymore. So that trigger won't affect you anymore. And that's what I think that's what, like, it's to learn what your triggers are, why they're there, how I can make this not affect me, and to know that it's not you triggering me, it's me triggering me. And yes. Why is that triggering me, and healing that within myself so that I can be whole.
And so what do? We end up because if we're not awake and we're not aware of this, we project this crap onto other people.
Yes.
And I saw this the other day. I was doing a DoorDash, right? Because I do that right now as I'm redesigning, right? And I was delivering to this one house, and this lady on this next townhome comes out. She's like, "Oh, is that Starbucks?" And I'm holding White Castles. I was like, "No."
Yes.
White Castles. And I said, she's like, "Oh," I go, "I'm delivering her," and she was like triggered and like going off on her neighbor. And she's like, "Oh." She's like smells this up and smells my place up with sewage because her house was not smelling the greatest because of animals and all that, which is whatever. But she can afford food and this and that. And she's like kept going on. And I'm just like looking at her like, all right, that was interesting. But she's holding on to her own stuff and projecting on this lady next door. But yet this lady, how she feels, is allowing that to be projected on her because of how she feels. But she's not aware of that. And I'm just sitting there going, I just went, okay. I went, all right, well, I'm just delivering the food. And
right. I don't care what happens.
I'm like, you guys do your thing. And I was just like, whoo. But then there's a part of me going, well, why didn't I say anything? Because it wasn't my business to say anything.
Right.
Just like, I'm going to let you have your shit because you're obviously.
Yeah, right.
You're not doing so well. And this lady was like just so timid. And then she's like, she goes, what's she saying? I go, she said something about your house. And I go, I don't know. I'm just here's your food.
Right.
Have a great night, man. Yeah. And then she kept going on, and this lady over here is still going on and on. I'm like, have a good night. And I just walked away. But people do that, but those people are so in victim mode, but they won't admit that they're in victim.
No.
They're playing what they want because they don't see it. And again, that's okay. People can be in that mode and allow it. But before, I would try to, no, you're this and that, and I would piss people off. And instead of just saying, but that was my own ego trying to be right and get them out of that. I'm like, well, no, I know what's best for them.
Right.
Here I am, the spiritual awakening guy, still doing that, but going, well, that ain't fucking spiritual. It is, but it's not. It's like, but I'm trying to force them. Like, but it's because I felt suffering for them, and I attached to their own suffering versus letting them have their own suffering.
Yeah.
Like,
and I do this. We still do this. How often does somebody say something, and you're like, well, that really hurt my feelings, and then you gotta go, fuck, why does that hurt my feelings?
It's we're spiritually awakened people, right? We're awakening. It doesn't mean we still have an ego.
Right.
It's still going to come up.
You just then you feel it, and sometimes you even blow up, and then you're like, oh, why did I blow up?
Yeah, because I'm like, damn it, I just fucked up. Then I'm like, and it's usually, towards Kylie, because, it's Kylie and I here, but it's usually I'm like, damn it. But in that same sense, and then we can either have guilt and shame, which is that whole fear mindset, which is keeping us separate, Or we can say, that was a lesson for me because now I can own it. Because guilt and shame keeps us down anyway and lowers. It's a lower vibrational frequency. It allows all these illnesses because when we are in guilt and shame and fear, we are disconnected. We are not connected. And that's where dis-ease comes from. We're not, we are connected. It's just, it's kinked. We can't disconnect completely because we're still connected, even when we don't believe in any higher self. If someone doesn't believe in a higher self, believe in God, believe in the universe or whatever, they're not disconnected completely. It's just, it's not, because
you're never disconnected.
There's no way. It's just, there's such a kink that it's barely anything is, coming through the hose or however you want to visualize that. It's just kink, that connection's kink. And that's where disease, and when you're living in anger and you're living in guilt and you're living in shame and you're living in fear, your vibrational frequency is so low, that's where disease comes from. And this stuff you want to experience. Like I used to get sick all the time. And I also manifested illnesses. Well, if I get sick, this is all like you think this, but you don't, it's like, well, maybe if I got sick, this person would pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And I manifested this one time, and it was in 2013, I think it was. I don't remember what it was. I manifested this stomach illness. I didn't ask them, but I got sick. I had this happen. I said, what if, but it was like a conscious, unconscious level. It's like you have the thought, but then it goes away quickly, right?
What if you need a break? Like some people are like, oh my God, I just need a break. I just need a vacation. I'm so stressed out. And then you get sick. Well, then you just manifested yourself a 5-day vacation.
It's not ideal.
That's not what I wanted. I wanted to go to the beach.
But you didn't make that. You didn't specify that.
Right.
You got to be specific because you will manifest these types of things.
If I give you the flu, you have a 5-day break, and then you have to stay in bed.
Yeah.
You have a break.
Every guilt, fear, shame, all that's all low vibrational. And as you start letting that shedding those layers go, you start unkinking that spiritual connection, and disease starts going away. And that's how you're able to break the cycles. That's how you're able to open up to new realms of healing in your body to keep that out. It's like, oh, but everything's fear. Oh, get the flu shot. There's fear of you're going to this and that and all this other stuff. And, you don't need to do this. And because the medical field's scared that, everybody's going to be healed and they don't. It's the same. That's really what it's boiled down to. But I think our system's just broken the way it is now.
Yes.
Eastern medicine had it correct with the whole body and the oils and the herbs, because that's, come on, all of it, mind, body, spirit. Mind, body, spirit.
You know what? It's all. I have this thing. So there's a guy named Bashar. I love Bashar. I follow him, and he uses something called permission slips. And I'm going to use his word because it's the best word. Everything is a permission slip. So the reason any pill works is because you believe it will work. You take it, your headache's gone. It's a permission slip. I tell people a lot of this when you're Reiki certified. You don't need to be Reiki certified. You can do Reiki, bring energy in through your hands and heal people. People use Reiki, and that's why it's big now, because you could, there's money there to be Reiki certified, but it's just a permission slip to be able to say, I can do this. Everything is. Oils are a permission slip. You can do it in an instant with your mind if you believe it for real. And I mean real, like with that you're God empowered, whatever. I know people that do that kind of thing, but all of that it's just a permission slip. It's, if I do this diet, this will work. Well, really, this happens because you're out of alignment for some purpose. It's all connected. I have a whole thing with that with food, because actually my podcast, that's exactly what we just did our podcast on, was if you believe it with money, it works for food. Whatever you believe with everything, it all, because I have a lot of people in health and wealth, that do what we do. They're like, you can manifest money, blah, 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 abundance. And they're like, oh no, but food, you better be a raw vegan because that's the good vibrational food. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. You'll eat when you're in tune with your body. You'll eat exactly the way that your body needs. I like that Abraham Hicks, I say this too, that somebody says, well, am I going to be so in alignment that I can drink bleach and I'll be fine and it'll be nutritious? And Abraham goes, no, but you'll be so in alignment that you can drink bleach, or that you'll know not to drink bleach. So, like,
Don't be
you'll
stupid.
yeah. So you'll know what works for your body because everybody is different and we've got all these ancestral beliefs, you know. I've been vegan, raw vegan and everything and meat, my body does better with meat. So I eat it because it feels better. I feel sick when I don't. But that's a belief that comes down from my ancestral line. I really could eat whatever, you know what I'm saying? So all of it is a belief. It's just
Yeah, like I notice I still like meat, but I also know I like to eat a lot more vegetables now too than I ever
yeah,
have. But I also enjoy eating freaking fast food occasionally. Now I got to one of those things is, oh shoot, is that going to hurt my stomach? And I can create that. But
yes,
everything has a vibration, so everything is spiritual in nature, right? It's just do we decide? It's like what do we want to put in our body at that moment? If we're in a higher vibration, do we want to have a lower vibrational food in our body at that moment? Because it's going to everything affects it, but we can pick and choose what we want. We can still have a lower vibrational food in our body because we could choose to if we want to. Because
right.
it's about living life. If I want to have a piece of fucking cake, I'm eating a piece of cake. If I want
And it's
chocolate,
better to love that cake and call this my skinny cake. So I have other friends who've done this. This is my skinny cake. I love this cake and I'm going to eat it and I love my body and everything that's nutritious will go into my body and whatever's not will come out of my body. And they do that and they've done the mirror work on it. They've done everything and they lose weight doing that. They can eat whatever they want. And that's why some people can eat whatever they want with no problem. And other people like me, think about eating food and it just like, and you're like, I'm just not going to eat ever again.
and see, mine is how I want to feel.
Yeah.
Like
But some people can
there's
feel
times,
better.
there's times I eat, and then there's times when I eat a healthy. I'm like, oh, because because being a busy schedule, being a single dad and doing this and doing the business and growing this and working on this and revamping this whole thing that I'm doing with the Laughing Through Life and Spirits, because that's is all newer to me. Stepping into it, I'm learning and growing. Like I'm trying this and trying that. So I do other things like DoorDash. It's like, okay, I'm bringing this money in while I'm rebuilding this because I know at some point that's going to come completely away.
Right.
But I also have amazing ideas come to me while I'm driving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, and I'm laughing and giggling, and people think I'm crazy, and I am. But, but at the same time, it's like because the comedian in me is like, it's the idea. I'm like, that was funny, and then I can laugh about it. I'm like, I got to write that down and remember to do that, especially when the flow really starts coming for me, and I block it, I kink it, and then I open it. Like right now, it's starting to really start opening because I'm really stepping to that role, and I'm working and healing those pieces. But it's like there's times like, okay, I got to eat fast food because I don't have time to cook because I've been doing all this other stuff, and I'll eat it, and I'm nourished, I'm full, and then but I just don't feel. I feel just kind of a little blah.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. If
Yeah.
nobody told you that fast food was bad and that they kept telling you this is nutritious and this is nutritious your whole life and you never were told that, this is what you have to think about. Would it have been bad? Would it make you feel bad? Or is it because you're told it's bad? You don't know. So
Don't know for certain, but
right.
I know when I eat. I should say this: so I eat more of a quality home.
What you feel is a quality.
Yes, what I feel, which that's
Yes,
different for everybody,
it
right?
is. Yes.
Yeah, like I had a creamy garlic pork chop, and then a baked potato and some vegetables the other night. I was like, oh my gosh, that was just just felt great in my body. And then there's other thing, but like I can go eat Lion's Choice and it freaking doesn't bring me down. It's
Yeah.
certain restaurants that I'm certain that I tie certain beliefs with and on their quality, and that's probably what affects my body.
Yeah, see, to me, it's I won't eat Lion's Choice because it has bread, and bread fucks with my system. So, but that's my belief that bread fucks with my system. You can eat Lion's Choice and feel great, and I can eat it and feel awful. It's just our
different for
belief.
everybody. But we go around, and I'm guilty of this. I've already kind of talked about that and alluded to this. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Like, you should believe this way too. But you have whole society doing that. Well, you should believe this way, and you're pushing this. You got to look this way. You got to look this. You got to have this, and you're not a man if you're not this. And success, because it's all based on these fear-based beliefs, and people get scared, even though they don't want to admit that they're scared. And they're like anger, for instance. People who are angry, and I can say this because I was that guy. Anger is a sub emotion to an underlying fear. Now you get a man who's just freaking Mr. Tough Guy and just I don't fear anything. Yep, that's a wall. that says, yes, you are, dude. And you can have that, but women do it too.
Yeah.
But we got to be aware. We got to want to let that go. We got to be able to say, oh, you're right. And for the longest time, I'm like, no, I'm not afraid of anything. I'll go at this and this and this. But we're living in this mindset of, I got to be physically aggressive all the time. And that's where toxic masculinity comes from. They think that, and when there's no physical threat, everything's a physical threat, because this is what we believe, because we feel everything in our outside world is a physical threat. This is why we're angry, and so we got to step up and all this other stuff. And it doesn't have to be that way. And as I start shedding that, and everybody said, and I teach people how to shed that, that's when you start having more fun. That's when you start being able to laugh through life. And people are like, well, it's not possible. This thing happened. I'm like, you can still laugh. Even in the middle of that. Even when life seems like it's falling apart, you have the ability to laugh because you have the choice to. You can laugh, you can cry and be angry all at the same time. And a host of other emotions at the same time. You can have that. Now, you have one primary emotion in that present moment. Like, you can't be sad and laughing at the same time and being happy. It's like either you're sad or you're happy. So at that one moment, you're crying, and then all of a sudden you start laughing. You've switched in that moment. But you have that power to do that. And I do that everywhere I go. Someone's having a stressful day. I have the ability and gift to sense that, and I can make a joke right there and have them laughing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if they're really, really open to it. Sometimes they look at me, I'm going to stab you, dude. How dare you do that? I'm like, oh, you have a problem with laughing and don't want to laugh. I'm like, wow, you have a closed off heart.
Yeah.
Like, one of my things I do with Kylie, and that's the things I've learned she's taught me, and what women really need, and I'm going into a different topic here, but it's coming out, so it's supposed to come out, is opening her heart. When she's crabby, when she's stressed out, when she's just just totally just with me, like I call her demon spawn sometimes when doing that. I'll go in and I'll mess around with her to get her to come break her state and to open her heart back up, because that's really what it boils down to, is our heart is closed off and they're not feeling love. Women are so intuitive to love, but they're so closed off. And men, because of the way we've been, right? And this is all part of the awakening piece of shedding those layers of that and those masks of masculinity, that opening that up. So now they can own their own stuff and open their woman's heart when they're even lashing out at them. Like Kylie lashes out. I don't get pissed off most of the time. And if I do, it's my own shit she just happened to trigger something. And okay. That was mine. But I may mess up at the moment and get mad at her for it. But immediately I'm like, I just screwed up. I'm sorry. And there's nothing better than getting closer to in a relationship by saying, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Yeah. We get stuck on this. Oh shoot, I just screwed up. Oh my gosh, they're gonna hate me. This and that. It's gonna happen. I'm ruining my relationship. No, when you say I screwed up, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You at that moment have made your relationship stronger. People don't realize that. I'm like, the magic isn't in not screwing up. The magic is in screwing up and going from there. And I've gotten so good at and I might not do it. Most of the time I catch myself right away when I script. I'm like, oop, I just messed up. My bad. And there's other times there could be something in the middle of that. And I go, okay. I realize after, if she's in bed or she's at school, or when I realize, ooh, I screwed up. It's when I have the next moment to say, you know what, I screwed up. I apologize. You know what? I went and I did that last night. I got to a point I was playing this game with her and acting like I was angry at her. I wasn't. I was just joking around. But I got to the point where I kept going and going and going. And there was a point where I said, I should probably tell her I'm joking. And I didn't. I kept going with it. It's like me, right?
Yeah.
And I kept going. And then to the point, she started crying. Why? And I was like, yep, I went too far.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm just kidding, but you need to check your attitude. You got a little too attitude with me. But I'm like, I freaking pushed it that way.
Right.
But so this morning, because she went to bed, and I left it at that, and I go, you know what? I went a little too far with that. And I recognized that piece of it. And so this morning on the way to school, it's like, hey, I owe you an apology. And she's like, why? And I said, I went too far. And she goes, with what? Like she hadn't really remembered. I go, last night when I acted like I was angry, and she's like, yeah. And I go, I went too far. I should have stopped it right when it all started and said, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Because she's like, you do that all the time. You act like you're angry with me, and then you're not. And I go, I haven't done that in probably years, but it's funny. But when I don't go too far with it.
Right.
When I get to it, I'm like, all right, I'm good. That one, I went too far with it, but then I allowed myself to get triggered because I triggered her. If we can sit here and laugh about it, because I was like, I got triggered because I triggered you. And then I'm like, and I said, you do need to work on you having your attitude all the time. But that.
So do you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that happens, I think, a lot as parents or in relationships is we know what triggers that person, the person you're closest to.
And we're doing it because we have a trigger inside of us. And that's exactly what it was.
And then we'll trigger them, which triggers ourselves. And then it goes back and forth. Yeah. And that's why it's good to go, stop. I need a break.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. I need to go figure out my shit. Go figure out your shit. We'll be back. We'll figure out our shit together.
Yeah. And it's teaching people how to do that. It's like, it's never the other person has to stop and change for you. It's you to change. Well, they're not changing. They're responsible for their own changing.
Yeah.
How much can you deal with? But as you do your own work, it's going to cause them to heal because it all, I mean, as our right, it's all but they have.
It does, or it causes you to be separate.
Yes. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay because their time in your life is done. And now you've grown and they're not. And that's okay. There's no judgment against them. No. But it's about awakening to that. So like with Kylie, and I was just like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, Dad, I'm sorry about my attitude. I'll work on that more. And I said, now, granted, I triggered more of that, but I said, and it ended great. Like, I love you. Forgive me. Yep. And we're done. But in those moments, it was great. Whereas like 6 years ago, I've been like, because I was so angry and didn't care. Right? It's like, whatever, get over it. I mean, get over it.
You made it her problem, not your problem.
Yeah. I'm like, get over it. It's my problem's your problem. And you just need to deal with it. It's just who I am. So get over it.
Right.
What the hell are you crying for? Cut that shit out.
Right.
Cry. The reason why I didn't want her to cry is because it made me uncomfortable.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to deal with my own shit. The only emotion I could deal with back then was freaking anger.
Yeah. You couldn't deal with anger either.
No, because it was so out of control.
Only you were allowed to be angry.
Yes.
And that happens with parents too, because then you're like, their kids throw a temper tantrum and they're like, stop that right now. Now you're going to go sit in the corner and they're all angry. And you're like, they're allowed to be angry too.
Why is it okay for us to be crabby, but our kids can't be crabby?
Right. And you're the person, you're the person. So if I'm upset, usually you call your spouse or your best friend or your kid's person. So I'm always like, why are you punishing your kid? Or I'll give you something to cry about. I never understood that. You're like, they're already crying. Something's already wrong.
My dad used to do that as he's spanking me with the belt. Wham! You stop crying right now. I'm going to give you something to cry about. What the fuck you doing right now, dude? You're pelting me with a belt as hard as you can. I am running around in circles as you're holding my arm like you're doing some freaking Indian around a cowboy guy as you're pelting me. And you say you're going to give me something to cry about. What is this?
Wait.
An appetizer?
You just traumatized me. I'm going to need hypnotherapy in 10 and 15 years.
When I'm 40, I'm finally going to heal this shit because of this shit back here.
It's going to cause all this trauma.
It's like, it's so funny. It's like, I'm going to give you, and I laugh because I did that with my older kids. I'm going to give you something to fucking cry about. I'll never be like my dad. I'm going to give you something to cry about. Fuck him, I'm my dad. Ultimately, that's what we do. And even if we do break away in a sense that we get away from most of it, some of that's still going to be there unless we consciously work through that.
Yeah.
And that was so funny. I'm glad you said that. I'll give you something to cry about because that's one of the things when I'm doing my comedy skits, I talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you something to cry about. What the fuck you doing now, man? I have welts on my butt from the belt. I have bruises. I think you gave me something to cry about.
And I was already upset before you did that.
Yeah, if I'm crying now and you're going to give me something to cry about, fuck, I don't know what the hell that is then. I don't want to know it.
No.
Until I was 15 and he punched me. Then I knew.
Right? Oh, God.
I brought you in this world. I'll fucking take you out. You ain't. You're going to kill me.
That's not traumatic at all.
That's the same shit that happened to my dad.
Yeah.
He did that when I was 15, but he was in this control thing. I mean, he was just this angry guy, and I can laugh about it now. It's just funny because I come home, I was late. I'll share that, and I know we gotta wrap this up here soon. But I come home, my mom changed my curfew, but didn't tell him. He's the man in the house, and everything he says is that's just how it was. And I can still remember this night. So I come in through the garage, I come in through the kitchen, and he's in the corner of the living room in his recliner, reclined all the way back. He says, "You're late." And I said, "No, I'm not. Mom changed my curfew." "No, she didn't." "She did. She gave me an extra hour." I'm like, "She did." "No, she didn't." Well, I raised my voice. I said, "Yes, she did." And this dude had like a spring in his ass. The chair never came down. It was like completely reclined all the way back, right? All the way back, legs, and all I saw was his legs go up, arms come up, and he was up out of the chair. But I was already running to my room, which he had a lot more to go to get to me. I'm like, I got like 5 feet, and I'm in my room, and I got this. No. That dude he was like the freaking Roadrunner that morning.
Figured out teleportation.
He may have done, like, at that moment, so much rage, just like, boom, and he's right there. It was like he was like Roadrunner, me, and then he was right at my. So I had the door, opened the door, and he hit me in the back of my head, like punched me in the back of my head.
Oh my God!
I went flying into my room and like into the door flew open. I went in, I'm like, how the hell did he get here that fast? He was like laying all the way back, like chilling, and I was like, and he's just pounding on me. I was 15 at this time, and he's pounding on me. And then what happened is he hit me in the ear, like because I'm like this, right? But he got me in the ear. Well, it hurt. And back then, it hurt. I came up ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I came up, fist clenched, and that's when he looked at me and says, "I brought you in this fucking world. I'll take your ass out." And his face is red as this apple. He's just like spitting, like looked like Cujo. For those that remember that movie who were watching, like Cujo just spitting everywhere and foaming at the mouth, and just like I'm like, is this my dad or is this the fucking exorcist right here? What the hell's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to die. I mean, that's really, like, I'm going to die right now. And he hit me again, and down I went. And I was like, holy crap. Because my brother used to, beat me up for the longest time until finally I freaking fought back when I was like 12 or 13, I think it was. And I thought he hit hard until my dad hit me. And then there's another story too I'll share when I got back from basic training. That's the hardest I've been hit. Was my dad when I called him out, but that's another story for now. But it was funny, and the only reason that it stopped, I mean, he was just starting to go into town. I kept going, I'm going to die right here. I'm going to die right here. My mom wakes up because she was sleeping, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then he's like, "You change this curfew. You don't change this curfew." She's like, "You don't own me, motherfucker." I mean, because my mom was this 5'5" fiery woman, and they were going at it. He's getting in her face, and he's like, "Come on." She's like, "Come on, motherfucker. I dare you to hit me." But this is the life I lived.
Oh my God.
Come on, I'm like, I'm going to have to step in here. I'm like, I already got my ass beat by my dad, but I'm going to have to go in there and save my mom. But no, they used to fight when I was younger. My mom could hold her own. But it was and I'm like, damn. And that was the only thing, all because my dad lived in this fear. My dad lived in this, I got to control everything. And because that's what happened to him. All this anger and all this rage inside him, and he controlled everything. And it was, I'll give you something to cry. Dude, I wasn't crying at that moment. I was so afraid that I was like numb to that moment. But yeah, he's done it for years. Just people across the street can hear me screaming as "I'll give you fucking something to cry about." I don't want to see that because this hurts.
No, it's enough. This is enough.
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm trying not to cry. It worked. You're beating me. You beat me like 40 times in the belt. And now it's like, you know what? We need to go back in the day and spank our kids again because that worked for us. My brother used to say that all the time. That worked for us. Did it?
Really?
I've been working on the last 6 years of healing from that.
Right.
I don't spank Kylie anymore and haven't in 6 years. And
never spanked my daughter in 19 years.
Well, you trying to one up me now? What kind of crap is that? Here, let me show you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. But because I was still in that old phase. That's still trying not to, but I wasn't as bad as with my older kids. So I've grown, but I wasn't as bad as with my older kids because I didn't like doing it, but it didn't come out of me. And I haven't spanked her or laid a hand on her in 6 years when I began this journey. And she's turned out very damn well. It has nothing to do with freaking spanking because you all you're doing is causing trauma to your kids. It's something different. You got to do something different. We need something different. We don't need to go back to the past.
Yeah.
Back here, we got no. The past doesn't work anymore. It's about breaking the cycles and going back and going to a new level awakening. And for those who can't stand it, can't wrap their heads or bodies around that, it's going to drive them crazy because we're going through an ascension, whether people like it or not. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. One more question, actually 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap this up. So the one you talked about earlier on about trauma, you help people with trauma in the subconscious, right? I made a note of that because I want to make sure that I brought this up. We had a great conversation about many and awesome things and had some fun.
Yeah.
At least I'm having some fun. I don't care if you are or not, but you talk about trauma in the subconscious. You help people with trauma in the subconscious. And the question I have for you, and this should be a quick answer, I think, is does everybody to some extent have traumas they're holding on to, whether it's past life, whether it's current life or not?
Yes.
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 And the reason why I want to ask is I think it's very important because there's going to be some people who watch this or listen to it if they're on listening to however they listen to a podcast. When I say watch it, it's because they can be listening to it on or watching it on YouTube. But everybody has some kind of trauma they experienced. But there's going to be some people who say, oh, no, because they blocked it out so much or they're playing in this level of victimhood so much that they don't realize that's what happened or that's what's going on. Or they, oh, no, I'm happy. But we still all have trauma. Even today, I still have traumas I'm working through. That's the whole point of this life is to work through these fears and to get to a point of fearlessness at some point, letting go of that point. I don't know if I'll ever achieve that fully. But the more and more I get to a place of having more fun and having fun. But the fear.
That's the whole purpose of life is to have fun and do what you enjoy. And you'll achieve it fully when you're not here anymore.
True. Unless you're in a completely enlightened spiritual teacher like Jesus. But even up until the day that he
still had issues or he wouldn't have had what would happen to him wouldn't have happened.
Well, yeah. And like some of these other ones who died for doing that stuff. But even up to like right before his arrest, Jesus had to walk through that and go process that because it came up. But then after that, he was able to transcend that where he didn't deal with that. But anyway, I think it's important for people to understand we all have them no matter what part of life you're in. You're going to have some kind of traumas that is affecting your life on a subconscious level. And if you're not having the life you want, if you're not getting what you want in your life at this moment, it's because you have something subconsciously, vibrationally blocking that.
And all of us have that. All of us have. And this is something too, like people are always like, yeah, I was in my 20s and such. I'm always like, nope. It happened from birth to 7. So whatever happened was from birth to 7. Because that's when we're we're not here. We're not solid. We're in theta. So we go back and forth. And that's when our subconscious mind is programmed. So your subconscious mind is programmed between birth and 7. And I'm like, whatever, you may not be remembering. So sometimes we have to go back step by step and then sometimes we go back before because that whatever happened between 0 to 7 is something that either you think it's nothing and it's more than what it is, or it's so bad you can't deal with it right now.
So you block it out, but anything like you're saying, you said, this happened back in my 20s. Yeah, it happened in your 20s to reaffirm something that happened back here in 1 to 7 years old, or even your early adolescent years, because you still have some of that. But yeah, the majority of it is 1 to 7.
Yeah.
But it's something like, I didn't feel love, so this happened. Well, my ex-wife did this, and this is why I feel that. No, it's because something back here that allowed you to manifest your wife and attract that wife. Yeah. Because you didn't feel worthy or lovable or whatever it was at that moment. I'm just using my own examples
right.
of that at this moment, but everybody has their own, whatever experience you're having, whether it's abuse, whether it's sexual abuse or regular physical abuse, and you're in a relationship abuse, whether there's rape, whether there's some other kind of thing, at some level, we created that.
Right.
Whether in most of this, I know some people are going to say, even in rape. Well, yeah.
They get mad. But I have a friend that's had that problems, and she can see where she created it.
But it's all unconscious. You got to be open to at some level. Your level of vibration is attracting it in because of the traumas you're holding on inside, and the feeling not feeling worthy or strong or powerful. We will manifest that in some way. We wouldn't do that on our own, but the subconscious is like, well, here, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
And then that's how we do it. And until we can become aware and change those aspects, that stuff will continue to happen at some point. And that's about releasing all that. And it's about understanding that piece of it. And I know some people will argue that, and that's okay. You can have it.
Yeah.
I still love you, and it's okay. That's where you are in your journey. But I just wanted to make that piece of where some people are watching this or listening to this, they go, oh, at least plants the seed to make them think and question it.
Yeah.
Whether they change their belief or shift their belief, it's none of my business. It's none of your business. It's to plant the seed to make them go, and it may manifest later.
Yeah.
It's like things we've done in the past, it's manifesting now. Things we've done in the recent past, it's manifesting now. It's changing in how we show up. That's awesome. And then to close things out, I have a final question for you, and it's all in line with this, with my podcast and the theme and how I'm ask every guest, and I'm going to be asking every guest this. What is one key that you think and you believe, one key, just one, to having fun in life? What's one key to having fun in life? And it's just think of the first thing that pops in your mind.
I already did, but you keep talking.
I'll keep on talking. You know it. I'll talk your ass.
It's really getting out of your own way, because it's really to have more fun is your purpose in life. And I think we get in our own way. What is this person going to think if I do this? I do a lot of, I teach a dance class, and it's more free form. And a lot of people are worried, well, what is this person thinking of me? How do I look? And it's really, who gives a shit? Because everybody there is worried about how they look. So no one's caring what you look like, because everyone cares what they look like. And if you really think about life, we're all encompassed in our own shit. So if they're judging you, that's their own shit. It's not your shit. So fuck them.
So get out of your own way. Don't listen to other people. Do what makes you happy and lights your soul on fire, and experience what's fun to you without worrying about what other people think.
Yes.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that. Anything else you want to share with the audience that's listening, watching?
We could probably go on for like hours.
We could. Awesome. So how can people connect with you that would love to go deeper into the Akashic records or hypnosis, trauma healing, anything like that? How could people reach out to you? And by the way, everybody who's listening, I will have this in the show notes as well. I have the link, so it's easy for you, but go ahead and share this.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way. Right now I'm Sommer Ferris, but it'll be changed to Sommer Morgan. Sommer Morgan, the Mind Magician.
So you have the business page, Sommer
business page. Yeah.
Morgan, Mind Magician.
Yep. Sommer Morgan, the Mind Magician. Okay. Of course, Sommer Ferris, Sommer Morgan, the Mind Magician on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way. I have a podcast. It's called Love You Podcast with Summer Yvonne.
Okay. I love that. Awesome. So I appreciate you being on here, and honored to have you on here as a guest, and had some fun. And I knew we would, because we're always laughing and having fun. But at the same time, we're having fun and laughing, but sharing some very, very, very amazing truths for people to wrap their around, or if they want to believe that it's a truth, to awaken, to go to the next level, to raise in dimension and help raise humanity to a new level. That's what we're here to do. And this is what this is about. But for me, it's at a deeper level. It's like, let's let go of that shit so you can laugh your ass off and have so much fun, but at the same time, live life fully. But it's about breaking those cycles so you can do that. And that's what it's about here. So thanks I'm so honored that you were on here, and thanks for sharing what you did. Again, everybody, I'll make sure that these links to how to reach out to Sommer is in the show notes. It's in on YouTube in the show notes as well. So you can reach out to her if you want to learn more about what she does and how she's a mind magician. They can go back and heal past timelines and help you shed those cycles so you can live your best life now. Awesome. Talk soon.